Hi, everyone. I'd like to go over the test that you just took, the Chapter 2 test. There were three versions of the test. And so this is just one version. This was the version that the 11 o'clock class took. However, the other two versions are similar. So when you're looking at how I solve these, you'll see the procedure, and your particular questions would be somewhat the same. So A, limit as x goes to 4, it says use the rules of limits. And so in this case, you cannot use direct substitution. If you just did like, let x equal like 3.999 or something, you lost points. You got partial credit, but you didn't get full credit. So you have to use the rules for both A, B, and C for this. And so the way to do this is factor and cancel. So x squared minus 6x plus 8 factors. So you have limit x goes to 4, x minus 4, x minus 2 over x minus 4. And then x minus 4 is cancel. And so then this is equal to limit as x goes to 4 of x minus 2. So since x minus 2 is algebraically equivalent to the original expression for all points except 4, because at 4 the original is undefined, but it's equivalent at all other points, I can take the limit by direct substitution now. So that becomes 4 minus 2, which equals 2. Okay, that was part A. Part B, limit as x goes to infinity. So a lot of students said 3/2, which is the correct answer. However, they didn't use the rules of limits. So the rule I was looking for was this rule, that 1 over x to the n power approaches 0 as x approaches infinity. Okay, so you had to use that rule to get full credit. And so the way to get the answer to this is you have to multiply by 1 over x cubed. Or on another version, it was 1 over x squared. So just whatever the highest exponent is. And then you get 3. So then you get limits x goes to infinity. You have 3, and then minus 6x squared over x cubed is 6 over x, 8 over x cubed. And then downstairs, 2 over x cubed times 1 over x cubed is 2. And then minus 4x times 1 over x cubed is minus 4 over x squared. And then you can apply the rule that says that 6 over x, 8 over x cubed, all those go to 0. So that goes to 0, that goes to 0, that goes to 0. And so you're left with 3/2. All right, so that's the way you had to do that one. Part C, again, some students, they just plugged in numbers close to 0, like 0.01. But to get full credit, you had to use the rules. And so for this one, you have to get a common denominator. And so first of all, x squared plus x, you can factor out an x right there. And then take that first fraction times the top and bottom by x plus 1. So I'm just algebraically reworking this here. And then that's going to equal limit as x goes to 0. And then I have x plus 1 minus 1 on top, and then that common denominator, x plus 1. 1's cancel, and then I've got x over x, the x's cancel, and I've got 1 on top, and then I can use direct substitution, plug in 0 for the x. I get 1 over 1, which equals 1. Okay, that was question 1. And like I said, your particular version of the test might have slightly different numbers, but similar procedures. Number 2, squeeze theorem. So if you did not use squeeze theorem, you did not get full credit. By the way, every question is 10 points. So the way to solve this with squeeze theorem is first you have to establish that -1 is less than or equal to cosine, which is less than or equal to 1. Cosine is always between -1 and 1. Other versions had sine, but same idea. And then you multiply. So if this is true, then multiply everything by x squared. And you have negative x squared is less than or equal to x squared cosine over 3x, which is less than or equal to x squared. And then you can apply squeeze theorem. This is like the I forget what letters they use in the book when they show the squeeze theorem, but so like this is the G, the F and the G and the H, And then if you have a function g that's in between the other two other functions, f goes to 0, h goes to 0, so g must go to 0. So this approaches 0 as x goes to 0. That's just direct substitution. X squared goes to 0. So by squeeze theorem, this middle must also go to 0. Okay, that's how you do number 2. Number 3, intermediate value theorem. So first thing you had to do was you had to make a statement that x squared minus 2, or another version that was e to the x minus 2, is continuous. If you didn't establish that function is continuous, you did not get full credit, because that's the whole point of intermediate value theorem, is it only is true for continuous functions. And here's why. If you have some function like, you have 1, you have 4, so the next step is you plug in 1 and you see you get a negative number. Plug in 4, you get a positive number. But if x squared minus 2 was not continuous, then you could have a situation like this, for example. And there would not be a solution where the function equals 0. But because it's continuous, we know that gap's not going to happen. And then you have a solution. Okay, so that's step 1, is you have to establish that fact. And then you just plug in your numbers. So plug in 1, you have 1 squared minus 2 is negative 1. Plug in the 4. 4 squared minus 2 is 14. This is less than 0. This is greater than 0. So, and then you can invoke this theorem that says there must be a number between the numbers in your interval, there 1 and 4, where f of c equals to 0. Okay, where c is the solution and f is the function. Okay, it's a little sloppy, but I'm just quickly telling you the answers so you can check your work. Okay, number 4. Okay, so we have temperature in degrees Celsius. On this version, it says draw a tangent line where t equals 2. So here's 2. So the tangent line looks like this. I think everyone got that right. However, let me switch to red. A lot of people missed this. So it's t prime of 2, which means the slope of the tangent line. Some people just said the y coordinate. So you have to, make a triangle and estimate the slope. You could say, roughly speaking, it goes down 2 and 1, 2, 3, 4. It goes over 5. So negative 2, positive 5. So like, negative 2/5, negative 1/2. I was pretty lenient with your answer, as long as you had a negative negative something that wasn't too steep. Now for part C, what does this mean? It means the change in temperature. And any time you have a derivative, the explanation is always a change in something. So a change in temperature, and I also said include units, so degrees Celsius per hour. Okay, let's move on. Question 5. Okay, use definition of the derivative. So you have to replace the x with a plus h in the beginning, and then replace, or actually you can replace it with a 7. Just go ahead and just replace it with a 7 right away. So you have limit z goes to 0. You have 1 over 7 plus h minus 2. And then minus, and then 1 over 7 minus 2. That's just a direct application of the definition. So a plus h, where a is 7, just replace it to the x. So 7 plus h. And then x minus 2 becomes 7 minus 2, all over h. Okay, then you have to algebraically manipulate this to get the limit. So 7 minus 2 is 9. So then you have limit h goes to 0, 1 over 9 plus h. No, excuse me, no, it's not. Hold on. 5. 7 minus 2 is 5, pardon me. And then minus 1/5. Okay, all over h. If you'd like, you can write it as 1 over h instead. Okay, get a common denominator. So times by 5, times by 5 plus h. Okay, and then from there, everything just sort of falls into place. So you have then 5 minus h over 5 plus h times 5. I know my 5s look like s's. Okay, the 5s cancel. You have minus h. Oh, and then times 1 over, I forgot my 1 over h. Times 1 over h. Okay, and then you can see that the 5s cancel. The h's cancel. You have negative 1 over this h cancels with that h. 5 plus h times 5. I forgot to write limit, but I'm just, well, all right, let's write limit. H goes to 0. Okay, then I can do direct substitution. H goes to 0, so you have minus 1 over 5 times 5, which is minus 1/25. Okay, now on another version of the test, you had square root. I think it was square root of x minus 2, I think it was. And so then your derivative would be x plus h minus 2, square root, minus x minus 2 over h. And then you had to multiply by the conjugate. So then you multiply by x plus h minus 2 plus square root plus square root x minus 2. Okay. Question 6. Okay, so for this one, you have to arrange the values in order, but these are all derivatives. It's f prime of negative 1. So you look at, here's negative 1. It's negative. Let's just say like negative 2. I don't know what it is, but let's just say negative 2. F prime of 0 is positive, like positive 1/2. F prime 1 is negative. Not as steep as over here, though. Like you can say like negative 1. F prime of 2 is 0. F prime of 3 is steep. It's probably like positive 2. So you put them in order. The lowest value, the lowest value is the negative 2. So f prime negative 1 comes first. And that's less than. The next would be f of 1, because that's also negative. F prime of 1, which is less than f prime of 2, because that's equal to 0, which is less than f prime of 0, because that's a positive. And then the last one, the highest, f prime 3. Okay, last one, question 7. Okay, sketch a graph. So you had to, first of all, you have x equals 5. You have limit as x goes to 5 of fx equals 6. So here's our y-axis. Here's 6. So f of 5 equals 3, however. So you put a dot. F of 5 equals 3. But the limit equals 6. So you need an open circle. And then remember, this is x approaches 5 from both sides. So you had to have, from both sides, you had to have the function approaching 6. And then the last one, as you approach x, as x approaches 0 from the right, we're approaching in this one negative infinity. So that would mean it just goes down to negative infinity like that. So something like that would be correct. On other versions, you had positive infinity. Other versions, you had 0 from the left, in which case it would have looked like that, or down, depending on plus or minus infinity. All right, and that's it for the test.